Jackson. Never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Can't get enough baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
Sam Dykstra, you know who I'd rather have on the podcast?
I can think of a lot of people.
Nobody.
We don't need to say them. That's fine.
Nobody. Absolutely nobody. Welcome back. In person.
I know, in person, but this isn't Zoom anymore. There's no more internet between us.
No. This is officially COVID is over.
2025.
2025, we made it. All right, you are roaming the backfields. You have your MLB Network jersey on. You are talking to some of the most interesting people in baseball. You've only been here for a few days, but who have you talked to so far?
I talked to Jackson Jobe in Tigers camp 2 days ago. I got Andrew Painter from the Phillies camp yesterday, Christian Campbell today, farm directors at all three spots. I mean, it's a whirlwind.
The farm directors sprint to you.
Yeah, right? They know to expect me when I roll into camp.
Yeah, all right, so let's go through them. We'll start with the three guys you talked to. Jackson Jobe, who I know you talked to last year, I think, in person, right?
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot about that 2021 draft. 2021 draft. And I actually just talked to Carson Williams, right? Carson Williams. Where do you guys have him? I should know this.
He's in the top 10 for us.
Top 10.
I mean, it's fantastic defensive shortstop with power, with speed.
And also another high school shortstop drafted in that 2021 draft. But to go back to Jackson Jobe was the pitcher who was drafted second or third. Yeah, second. Yeah, it was. All I remember was the top four. Actually, I could go through the top six if you want. It was Henry Davis, right? Yeah. Henry Davis, Jobe, Jack Leiter, Marcelo Meyer, Colton Cowser, Jordan Lawler.
Yeah.
Boom. Anyway, Jackson Jobe is an interesting one because he's obviously a pitcher. He obviously had the David Price treatment a little bit last year, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. What did he say? So what did he talk about that?
So we talked a little bit about that, about what it's like coming out of the bullpen in that situation, because he's been a starter. Nobody doesn't think he's going to be a starter.
Yeah.
But his arm, he's got a really good fastball. He had a really good sweeper last year. He added the cutter. He's worked on a changeup to make it a plus pitch now too. So you might as well have him, right? The way that AJ Hinch was using his bullpen, there weren't really many two traditional starters outside of Tarek Skubal. So add Jackson Jobe to that mix.
Yeah.
He said it was interesting coming down off of that because now spring training games are not really that big of a concern. Once you pitch in the postseason, the adrenaline for spring games goes away. Which I thought was interesting. But one thing he took away from it in MLB time is that sweeper was not getting swing and miss.
Really?
The way he wanted it to, yeah. Which is, you look at the metrics, it's 3,000 RPMs, it has tons of sweep. He even said to me, I was throwing a sweeper before they called it a sweeper.
Yeah.
They just used to call my slider having huge horizontal break.
Yeah.
Now everybody throws one, which means everybody's used to seeing it as hitters.
Yeah.
Hitters are used to adjusting that. So he said he's basically scrapped the sweeper for a curveball.
Okay.
Which is now more vertical. It still has a little bit more sweep. It's not 12-6. It's 11-5 kind of, maybe even 10-4. But it's a little bit more vertical action, and it's something that guys haven't seen. And he's got it up to 3,100 RPMs. And that's fascinating to me that you can just switch breaking. He had a curveball in high school.
Yeah.
But now he's going to that instead to try to finish guys off better in zone.
It's eye-opening when you look at being dropped into that position he did. In case people don't know, dropped in the major leagues, very little. How many appearances did he have in the regular season?
It wasn't that many. It was only 2 or 3.
Yeah,
and they brought him up at the very tail end.
Right, and then he goes to the postseason. I say his people pulled a David Price because that's what basically David Price did his rookie year back in 2008. But it goes both ways because a lot of times you say, well, the stuff is electric. The stuff is going to be, you got this guy who's going to come in, blow guys away because he's just next level stuff. But then conversely, what you just said, the scouting reports are also next level.
Yeah,
right. They're like, okay, this guy has a sweeper. This is what you're going to look for. And which in the minor leagues that might not be the case. I mean, it was probably a great experience for him, I would imagine. I mean, it's fun play.
No, it's great. I mean, especially for him. He's kind of a few people have told me this, and I was thinking it as well. He's kind of Skeensian, Paul Skeensian, I should say. Not in terms of overall quality. He's not the same fastball thrower and all that. But Paul Skeens did a tremendous job of taking feedback and adding that splinker, right? And being like, all right, let me find a pitch that's going to go arm side and that I can kill spin with. Jackson Jobe is really good at being like, hey, my slider's great. Most people would just leave it. He's like, I don't want to just leave it. I don't want to be a guy who just has really good metrics and isn't getting strikeouts. I want to be that guy alongside Tarek Skubal that's competing for Cy Youngs.
So you brought thou who shall always be named, Paul Skeens, and a year ago, let's look back a year ago, Paul Skeens, right? He was, okay. He's a name, and everyone's watching him.
Yeah, number one overall pick. I mean,
everyone knew, but now it's like it's basically they have a fortress around him. He throws I was up in Bradenton yesterday, and he throws a bullpen. It's the biggest thing ever. And we would bring up this question on the broadcast because I was thinking of going from, of course, everyone goes from Dunedin to Sarasota. It's like the magical route to excellent. But there's a day game in Dunedin, the Blue Jays, and then Skeens is pitching at 6 o'clock at Sarasota. And I'm like, I actually might put my dinner plans aside and go to that game. And I was thinking, how many other pitches would I do that for?
Yeah.
I don't think there's maybe any, to be honest with you. But this world that we're living in with Paul Skeens, a year ago you probably said, yeah, we're going to do that. You were probably the one.
I would have. Well, he had that game in spring breakout last year where he went up against Jackson Holiday, struck Jackson Holiday out when those guys were two of the best prospects in baseball.
Yeah.
And you could tell Skeens enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Walking off the mound with a little bit of a strut. He's always had eyes on him going back to when he transferred from Air Force to LSU.
Yeah.
But he loves, I'm not going to say he loves the attention, but he loves beating people's expectations.
Speaking of expectations, you obviously thought very highly of him.
Yeah.
Did he exceed, meet, or what? How was your expectation? How has he landed in terms of your expectations?
I think if my expectations would have been that he did last year, I would have expected him to do that in year 2.
Okay.
Like I thought he would come up, do pretty well, but adjust in the offseason and take it from there. I would not have pegged him for being an all-star in year 1 necessarily, just because what we've heard consistently over the last few years, the jump from AAA to the majors is as big as it's ever been.
Yeah.
Even for pitchers. Batters even more so, but even for pitchers. But his stuff is just played exceptionally well. He's a really good student of the game, and that splinker was such a unicorn pitch.
Yeah.
Guys hadn't seen it.
No.
In the way that like everybody had seen some version of Jobe's sweeper, they hadn't really seen this splinker outside of like Yohan Duran or a few others. So he turned himself into a unicorn with that velo, with that ability to throw the ball wherever he wants. He exceeded my expectations. Now I think he's going to meet them because we always thought.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, you can't go more than as they said, in Spinal Tap, you can only go to 11, right? I mean, so there's one more than 10.
Yeah, right.
So to go to the second one that Andrew Painter.
Andrew Painter, yeah.
So Andrew Painter, obviously the Phillies. And has some injuries history, right? Correct?
Yeah, he underwent Tommy John surgery in late 2023. 2023 spring training 2 years ago, there was some expectation that he could make the team out of camp, experienced elbow problems. They kept kicking the can down the road, seeking other opinions. He finally underwent Tommy John surgery. Missed all of that year, missed all of last year, came back for the Arizona Fall League. Back in camp now, they're really holding him back. He's not throwing in Grapefruit League games. He might even open the year and extend his spring training, but they want him with the big league club in the second half.
Okay.
So they're going to hold back his
they're
bullets in the
loaded
first half.
anyway. I mean, their starting rotation's loaded anyway.
Right.
Right? I mean, it's like, okay. So, and the other one is the Christian Campbell, which has been a really interesting guy. We've talked a lot about Christian Campbell, sort of, not only on this podcast, but with you on the podcast, leading into this, and the expectations and the year that he had and all of that. And then this is Sam, really the first time I got a chance to watch him. And what I saw, a guy that was putting a ton of pressure on himself. And you never know, right? You just never know. And in the last couple of days, the last couple of games, you're kind of seeing what you talked about, what a lot of people are talking about, more patience at the plate. But it's hard. I get it. Like, especially in the world we live in, the world we live in of rankings and internet and everything else, in media, all of us. I mean, we love it. Yeah, right. And so they get here, and he got here, and it was like, and he's such an earnest kid, right? Like a very thank you. So anyway, I don't know what your perspective of, because he's sort of a soft-spoken kid, like an earnest kid. Yeah. What your perspective of where he's at right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me what's happened to him defensively the last few games, right? He's starting to play a little bit more left field.
They keep saying this to get into bats, but I will, not to interrupt you, but I would say this, is that It's also if you said you were locking in on the second base competition, you would be playing a lot more second base. I think. Yeah. But anyway, go ahead.
I mean that just kind of opens my eyes on that in terms of I expected him to be right there in the second base competition. So him mixing in some left field is interesting, like you said. But I got to watch him here on the backfields in a live BP situation, put a ball right off the monster, which is exactly what you want. I asked him afterwards, did they give you the EV? He's like, no, but I want it so bad. Like he knows he can put the bat on the ball.
Yeah.
And they talk all the time about those core 4 principles, right? Bat to ball skills, ball flight, bat speed, and swing decisions. And he's checking a lot of those boxes now. The big one, he even said this, and he said this since last year, ball flight is the big thing. What was he doing at Georgia Tech? Putting the ball on the ground a bunch of times. What did he do there on the backfields? It was off the monster, the faux monster that they have here, which is the same height as the green monster in Boston. It's exactly the swing you want him to have. And so you could tell how pleased he is with that. He just needs at bats here, like putting so much pressure, whether it's on himself or externally. I think like if he goes 0 for 5 in his first 3 games, why isn't this
I
working?
mean, it really is the eye-opening thing. Like he goes up against Jesus Luzardo, and Luzardo's stuff is insane. But also just going up against Charlie Morton, it was like these guys are bobbing and weaving their way around him.
Right.
They're saying, "Oh, you have a close chance. I'm going to bust you in on the fastball," or whatever it is. And you said back to ball skills, and really one of the things that he was doing that he hadn't been doing was swinging and missing a ton.
Yeah.
And all of this said, he's a good example of like. Let's not judge a guy by 2 weeks of Grapefruit League, right? He's a good player, and he'll be a good player, and he's going to help the Major League team this year, I think, right?
Yeah, no, I absolutely think so. And you watch him even run, he glides. Like it's not like he's touching the ground. You watch David Hamilton run, it's like he's zooming, right? And there's a lot of power in those steps, but like Christian Campbell's just gliding like a gazelle. There's many ways you can help out the Red Sox.
Let me ask you this. We talked about the motivation of getting a rookie on the opening day roster. We know because of the rookie of the year and all that of the payoff. Who are some guys that you think might get that treatment for heading into this year that may be like, in years past we're going to control his contract and we're going to prioritize that.
Yeah.
Who do you think is sort of edging toward actually making a major league roster because of that dynamic?
Yeah, I think Jackson Jobe could be that guy. I mean, because they have such high expectations for him. He could be, and again, only go back to Luis Heel also won Rookie of the Year along with Skeens last year, right? So we're coming off a year in which 2 pitchers did it. Jobe could do that if he gets to 150, 160 innings. But the way to make that happen, get him on the opening day roster. They've had some injuries in that Detroit rotation, added Jack Flaherty, so that's one fewer spot. But like he could do it. Chase Dollander of the Colorado Rockies, their first round pick a few years ago, had an exceptional first full year last year, reached Double-A. Rockies always need arms. They always need homegrown arms because they're not going to go out and sign a big-time free agent to pitch there who wants to pitch there. So I think if they believe in Dollander as much as it seems like they do, and the stuff is certainly there, he could be their opening day. Can he win Rookie of the Year in that park? That's a tough ask. But give themselves a chance, especially the Rockies being in a place right now where they're kind of in a rebuild. Give yourself a chance to get that extra draft pick.
It's an unfair question because you've only been here a few days, but do you sense that there's anybody who is forcing the issue that maybe teams when they got here didn't think they were going to be forcing the issue? Like for instance, I just talked to Chandler Simpson. I don't know if he's forcing the issue.
No, that's a great example.
Yeah, but I mean, and I told him, I said he's great of him to come on the podcast. He just sold 100 bases. When you steal 100 bases, you get a lot of publicity. You're hitting 350 and all of it. But you could get to spring training and just be like Christian Campbell, like struggling out of the gate.
Yeah.
This kid, first game I see him, makes 2 unbelievable catches, racing around the bases and everything else. So, yeah.
No, he was somebody I actually put in a newsletter a few weeks ago of like, here's my hot take, Chandler Simpson should be on the opening day roster.
Nice.
Because it's bat to ball skills. It's something that translates everywhere he's gone so far, and that speed is always going to play. And you look at the Rays center field options right now, it's not great. So you get somebody who could be a real table setter there, even if he hits like an empty 270, but he's turning all those singles into doubles and some of them into triples because once he's on second, he's going to steal third too. That's a skill set that the Rays could really use, and if they're trying to be competitive in this competitive AL East, get the best guys on
there's a reason he hits 350, man. Like, I don't care what level it's at.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason he hits 350, and you see him rooting ground ball to third, to short, whatever. you're going to get a guy on base.
And even if it's not a hit, it's that third baseman knowing him running, who could throw it into the second row, which goes down as an error, so it's not a hit, but like he's on base now.
I classified him and Campbell not only because they're close to where I'm at in spring training, as the two most interesting guys in the Grapefruit League. Who is I know that you're going to talk to a lot more guys. Who for you is the guy that you really want to talk to, you're looking forward to talking to?
Yeah, somebody I'm looking forward to talking to tomorrow is Spencer Jones, who's gotten off to a really strong start in Yankees camp.
Had a down year last year.
Had a really down year with a ton of strikeouts. I talked to him at the beginning of the year in Double-A Somerset, and he was working on his swing, trying to cut down on the swing and miss. Didn't quite work, didn't take. Now he's trying something new again. Homered yesterday. I got to see him homer in Phillies camp. Something's happening there. Now, is it going to come together, or is this guy who's constantly fidgeting? Somebody said the other day online, like, oh, is he going to turn into another Joey Gallo? Joey Gallo for Spencer Jones would be a great outcome for somebody who can play center field. So I'm interested in talking to him tomorrow. Walker Jenkins with the Minnesota Twins, catching up with him. He's another guy we're super high on, coming off his first year.
You know who I talked to was George Lombard Jr.
Him
Speaking
too.
of the Yankees.
Yeah.
Super impressed. Obviously, like only 19 years old, but been around already. Not only because he's been around the major league camp now, because his dad was a major leaguer and and also a coach.
Yeah.
But he just gave that vibe of, I was not like this at 19 years old. I was not like this at 19 years old.
Yeah, and he can do it on both sides too. He's really good in the field at short. He's put the bat on the ball pretty well this spring. There's some parts of Yankee. I mean, I live in New York. I'm hearing some people trying to be like, oh, put him at third base. No, don't. Let the guy get to the upper minors first, and that's great that he's generating that excitement, because outside of Spencer Jones and Jason Dominguez, there hasn't really been much of that excitement on the Yankees farm system.
I felt really, speaking of 19 years old, I felt really, really old yesterday when I was broadcasting a game and an 18-year-old for the Pittsburgh Pirates came in the game.
Connor Griffin? Yeah. They like that guy a lot.
Well, I mean, he looks the part, if nothing else.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a big kid, but like, holy mackerel, 2006. You were born when? 2006? But it is interesting anytime you get that, where you say, okay, we know you're 18, but you're playing the major. We know that a year ago you were getting ready for your high school prom, but you're not even getting ready for high school prom, but you're playing this major league game against these major leaguers. Like he was facing Michael Fulmer, who obviously like a longtime major leaguer. With Ethan Salas, would he be the youngest guy probably to play in Major League spring training games?
Leo DeVries, actually in the same camp, is younger than him.
Oh, okay.
I would assume he would be the youngest.
That's not so. Were they 17?
They're both 18.
But
DeVries is younger, 18.
Oh man, it's crazy.
Yeah, I've written some ETAs of 2030 on reports.
Really?
Yeah, for our top 30s. It's not fun. It's not fun thinking about 2030 already.
How was your latest list? How was it received? Like you always get the yays and the nays but how was it received?
I've heard. I mean, it sparks debate if nothing else. Which
that's what's great.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. You talk to a bunch of people for these lists, you think you get it into a good place, and then the public gets to be judge on that one. But I appreciate it. I appreciate people having interest in it. I get it. We're a site that publishes all our lists for free, so we're most accessible to a lot of people. But no, feedback so far has been okay, and
it's good. It's like
I'm happy they're out.
As long as you feel secure in what you're doing,
I can justify every ranking we put out. Put it that way.
Exactly. And as I think I told you, I caught up with Nick York, who was a former first-round pick, now in competition for the Pirates' second base job, and he's talking about how he was trying to get out of two words: prospectdom and prospectism, which is I appreciate both words. They should both be on T-shirts, but point well taken. Get out of whatever those are and just be considered a big league ball player. Right? Yeah, because that is the world. Like, he lived that world of the ups and the downs and why aren't you higher? What's going on? All of that. But once you get to the major leagues, you're major league.
There are no more rankings.
There's
anymore.
No more rankings.
Like fantasy stuff. Yeah, it's just what is your production level. That's how you are judged, and that's how you should be judged.
Well, you're excellent in person. Excellent job.
Thanks so much, Rob.
Enjoy your time.